Hello, in this video we're going to go through our green frog dissection. So we have our frog here. First thing it says to do is lay him on his belly and measure the length of the top of the head to the end of the backbone. So we want to go from the top of the head all the way to the backbone. So we got a ruler here, we're going to put it in the centimeter side, start at the top of his head, and then go all the way to his backbone. And it looks to end up being just short of 8 centimeters, 7.8 centimeters for that length. So 7.8 centimeters for the length of this particular frog we're dealing with today. Then it says to turn him belly side up, and we want to determine the sex for him. The way we're going to do that actually is by looking at his hand. So I'm going to bring his hand up as close as we can, hopefully. And we're looking to see if he's got a pad on his hand. I'm not going to tell you guys, hopefully you be able to see it, and I got a little light here to help us see a little bit better. See if he's got a thick pad on his hand. So we're looking down by his thumb, seeing if there's a thick pad on there. So hopefully you can see whether or not he's got a pad down there, kind of in his just above his wrist or not. But that's what we're looking to see, whether it's a male or a female on this frog. So hopefully you got that recorded down. Then it says to record the colors, so I'll turn them over so you can make a little observation. It should be pretty clear what he looks like. Most people have seen some frogs around. Then the next step is looking at the head. First we want to look inside his mouth. Before I cut it open, I'm not going to show how much you'll be able to see, but I'll try to show you a little bit of what's in there. So if we open it up, again, try to give you as much light as I can on this guy. But you can't really see any teeth. If you think about how a frog eats, that kind of makes sense. You can kind of see how his tongue's attached here. If we pull his mouth way wide open, you can see how his tongue attaches, and you see a little more with that later on. On the top, you can feel it's kind of a roughy gum type pattern, but no sharp teeth or anything along those lines. So next, want to know what the tongue feels like. So you obviously at home you can't feel this, but it's very smooth tongue, kind of squishy feeling, not very strong muscles fighting against us. It's a kind of elastic feeling. Then we want to move on to our next step, which is looking at the external nares, which is kind of similar to your nose and the tympanic or nictitating membrane. So we got on top, you can kind of see his nares, and then on the side, hopefully you can see that tympanic membrane. That's this small, again, not the eye, so you got the eye up here, and behind it you got the tympanic membrane. It says to measure that tympanic membrane, so I'm going to take our ruler again, and we'll measure that. And it's just over half a centimeter at 0.6 centimeters. So that's that tympanic membrane down here. So that's a little bit with the head. Description of the tympanic membrane, that membrane there. You can see it's a large circle, kind of cuts in on this head of this guy. Next we want to examine the feeling in the mouth, and we'll cut down so we can get a little bit inside his mouth. So I'm going to pause the video a little bit, and we'll come back once we got his mouth cut down a little bit. So all we did was cut a little bit down into through his mouth. You can see how his tongue is attached in the front. If you think about how frogs eat by pulling in their prey, that makes sense for it to be attached there in the front. Then as we look down, you can see into his throat and kind of how that's set up. I'll try to move our light over him. You can see into him, and you can see down into his throat a little bit here, if I can keep my hand out of the way for you. You can see it's got a closing to help prevent any food. Again, he eats his food whole, keep any food from trying to escape when he takes it in. So that gives us a little bit on the mouth, what it looks like and kind of what's going in and how it feels. Very soft, squishy, elastic feeling skin on that, inside that mouth. Then it says to look at his legs, so we're looking at his hind legs compared to his front legs. So you can see the size of the difference. Front leg's much smaller, back legs much larger, more meatier. If you've ever eaten frog legs, the back legs are what you're eating. So we can kind of see that difference in those legs right now. Obviously, to be able to describe the function those are used for as well. Then next is what's called a cloaca. The cloaca is going to be in the back. It's the hole that both waste and reproductive, whether it's a male or female, is released. So that's going to be all the way in the back underneath this guy. So that's called a cloaca. I probably can't see it too well on this video, but it's called a cloaca. And that's just where everything's coming out. It's the one hole where everything's able to come out. Next, we're going to be cutting into them. So I'm going to again pause it. We'll get them cut open, and hopefully you'll be able to see what's going on inside. Catch you up in a little bit. Okay, so now that we got them cut open, we got the skin peeled back on the sides here. Some of the first things you can see really big here in front, those aren't lungs, that's the liver. The liver's got 3 different lobes, so we have 1, 2, 3 lobes there. Up above it you have your heart, and down below you can kind of see the small intestine and some adipose tissue, or what's known as fat, down here below. So I'll pull that up a little bit closer just so you can hopefully see it a little better. But that's some of the things you can clearly see right when we get in. If you have a female, sometimes they have a bunch of little kind of grayish dots. Those are eggs. We shouldn't have expected that on this case, and we didn't. So that's hopefully you were able to identify earlier and not expect to see this. For your assignment, it says start with the large intestine, so that's starting at the end of the digestive tract. So if we move the liver up out of the way, you can obviously see the small intestine. It's all wrapped around, and at the very end, leading into the cloaca, is going to be your large intestine. So all the way down here at the end is going to be the large intestine. So once I got it cleared out, you can kind of see that rectum as we move it up. So I'll pull up for you, and hopefully I can rearrange it so you can see a little bit better. So right in here we have our large intestine. Okay, so we tried to get a little closer for you. Down here you can see that large intestine. I tried to clear out as best I could. You can see it's kind of a darker color. Typically you'd expect it to be a darker appearance, larger, thicker tube. Just above it you have your small intestine. You can see it wound up by lots of directions, much longer than your large intestine. On the side of it, these kind of yellowish tangles, adipose tissue or fat, and then again above it is your 3 lobes of your liver. So that's a few other items we're looking at. I'll move those out of the way, and then we'll move on to your next item. So next we're going to find the stomach. If we move the liver up, you can see underneath it this large sac. That's going to be our stomach. We move the liver out to get to the stomach. You can see some muscles attaching it to the liver, but we're looking specifically at that stomach, that sac right now. So within that stomach, you can tell it's been eaten because it's got a solid, rigid stomach to it. We could cut that stomach open using a scalpel and see what's been eaten lately. So if we hold him still, and I find where I left my scalpel, we'll cut that open for you so you can see what he's been eating. So we're going to cut open that stomach now and see what this guy's been eating and see what comes out of his stomach. So hopefully we can hold it steady and cut through that stomach. So I'm cutting into it now. You can see a clear kind of liquid come out. That's your digestive juices. And let's see if we got anything inside. In this case, I'm going to use my forceps to help pull out. And just some stringy grass, it looks like we got in there. So he had some grass with whatever he ate. We got a leg. And let's clear it off. And let's see if we got anything else to come out. In this case, he didn't have very much left in his stomach. It's been farther along, digestive. You can see some small parts of a bug. But other than that, not a whole lot. that you can distinguish. We found a leg and just some clear juice and a piece of grass that's been sitting in there from whatever he ate with his food. So that's what we were able to find inside his stomach today. Not a whole lot, not the most interesting. Sometimes you can find whole flies or roly-polies or things like that. Next, we're going to look underneath his stomach. You can see some other organs underneath. So we have, I'm going to pause and cut out this fat so it's a little easier for you to see, and then we'll see what you can find underneath. So I moved some of those fat bodies out of the way. Next, I'm going to take some of this dysentery and move it out of the way so we can hopefully clearly see the pancreas underneath here. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to move this fat body, I'm trying to not break anything, and then right here we have our pancreas. The pancreas might be a little tough to see. Hopefully you have a well-functioning pancreas as well. Otherwise you need to take some medication to help ensure you're healthy. But you can see our pancreas here, and then right below it, kind of like a bean, we have our spleen as well. So we have your pancreas and then your spleen just beneath the liver. If you can hopefully see those. So pancreas, spleen is what we're looking at for this segment. Next we'll move on and move some things out of the way so hopefully you can see the kidneys. So kidneys are typically well underneath. We have our gallbladder here. Typically frogs have a very well developed gallbladder. And then we want to find our kidneys. Kidneys, if you know a kidney bean, that's kind of the shape we're looking for. While I'm here, I got the lungs. So this shriveled up looking portion over here is the lung. And then down below it we can see the kidney. So we got the kidney down here. We should have another kidney and another lung on the other side if we can pull in closer. But my light's on the far side, so you may not be able to see it as well. But we have a lung, again shriveled up, and then below it another kidney. So we got one of those on each side. Kidney, you can see underneath, very large kidney for a frog. Frogs have very large kidney, very underdeveloped lungs though. So that's your kidney and your lungs. While I'm here, let's go up and find the heart. The heart's right up here, above the kidneys, above the liver, well above the kidney is the heart. So if we can't find, if you can see it, this organ right up in here, that's your heart. We'll cut that out and give you a little closer look at that heart, hopefully here in just a second. But we saw our gallbladder, pancreas, spleen, lungs, and liver while we were in this segment. So hopefully you were able to catch those. We'll pull that heart out so you can look a little bit closer at that. So I've been able to remove the heart. You can kind of see the shape on it a little bit better hopefully here. I kind of got it upside down for your view, but you can kind of see that heart a little bit better. It's got a lot of fat surrounding it that helps protect it. In a frog, it's going to be a 3-chamber heart, so not as well developed, but you can see it's very similar to the shape of, say, a human heart. We're not going to bother tracing the blood path. It's going to be a little tough with how small and the camera setup we have here, so I'll just move that off to the side for you. Then next we want to follow up the stomach and trace it up to the esophagus. So you can see, hopefully you can see, stomach comes up and we get this long tube here at the top. That's our esophagus that leads down to the stomach. So the stomach we got cut open here, and then above it, that tube that leads up is the esophagus. Our lungs right there in the way, kind of blocking us off, but we can kind of trace that up and see the esophagus. It leads up into the pharynx and up into the mouth. So that's our pathway up, how the food comes in. So the food comes down, and you can actually see I run my probe, and it comes all the way down into the stomach. My probe's actually down into the esophagus right now. Then, lastly, we'll come down to the bottom end and see if we can't see the reproductive organs on this guy. Well, one thing I want you to do is look at the skin, peel back the skin on the leg, look at the muscle. So I've done that for us here. Frogs have very strong legs, and you can kind of see some of that striation on this leg muscle there. So we got that showing pretty easily, pretty clearly. And lastly, if we can find it, reproduction organs lead into the cloaca. Again, the cloaca is where waste is removed. So we got our kidneys, we got our liver up top. Underneath the kidney, we'll look and see if we can't find the testes on this. So we got his vertebrae. Testes are just behind the kidneys typically, and protected by some fat bodies. Again, it's a little tough to show you on this camera setup, but he does have some testes down here leading into the cloaca, where the waste is removed and sperm is released. So hopefully this helped a little bit looking at your frog dissection. You can see some organs more clearly, like the liver and the lungs and the heart we removed, the intestines and the stomach. A few of the other ones, like the pancreas, the spleen, the gallbladder, a little tougher for you to find and look at, especially with our setup here. But for the most part, we're able to get you most of those organs found pretty clearly, hopefully. So hopefully this helps a little bit with your understanding of frogs and how their body systems are set up and how they appear. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.